Good morning. It's Monday morning, 9:33. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. I had issues with the internet. I updated the software in my master computer here, and I guess it massaged my internet connection. But I I restarted the computer twice and turned the internet off, and then turned it back on, and turned it off, and then turned it back on, and voila, I am connected. So apparently when the software updated, it actually disconnected me from my internet connection. So be it. I'm charging my earpods. Aha! The famous green light. That's a good thing. Yeah. So there. Okay. We got all kinds of stuff going on in the world today. We have General Jack Keane up in the corner up here with the Israeli launches largest ever strike on Iran. So Israel's, they're tough. They're tough cookies. They've got, they have a lot of jet airplanes. F-16s, F-18s, F-22, F-20s, or 25s, or the latest and the greatest. And I know they passed some jet airplanes along to the Ukrainians. The Americans did, and I think the Hungarians gave them some planes. And I guess they gave them pilots too, because getting an FA-18 jet is not like sitting in there and turning on your car. You got all kinds of switches and gauges and things, and you fly by wire, and you got a joystick, and they got all kinds of buttons on it, and you have to learn how to deal with the buttons. Let me turn down the volume on this. Oops, down volume, down, boy. There we go. It's giving me signals. It's my earphone. Woo! Yeah. All right. So it's Monday morning. It's we have exactly 8 days of voting left. Now you probably have, early voting probably ends Thursday or Friday. If you want to early vote, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I've already early voted. Oh yes, I have, and it's just like voting. You go in there and you give them your photo ID. I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, sunny Boca Raton, Florida. By the way, this is a Simulcast. This is a Simulcast. It's a live broadcast. Let me turn down epidemic a little bit. How is that? I think I need to go down one more. There we go. So that's a good level. We're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. So on live broadcast, you can call in. You can see up with my ticker tape thing that's going along the top edge of your screen, of my screen, your screen. We all scream with ice cream. Yeah. 50 years ago, on the desks of employees at IBM, on their desk, they had a sign that said, "Think T-H-I-N-K. Thank. Anyway, so you can call in at 561-416-1100. I have my phone connected into my soundboard here, so if someone does call in, I can answer the call right on this whole system, and everybody can hear what we're talking about on live TV, so be kind. You can text message also, and it will pop up here on the screen, or not. You tell me. Yeah, so you can text message in case you're shy and don't want to get on live TV, because all these bits and bytes are floating around here. I got wires everywhere. It's all hidden. I got them all hidden with black napkins. Yeah, so that it looks pretty neat. Neat, like not sloppy, neat, as opposed to the other definitions of neat. Anyway, so I don't have my wires hanging out. You can see this wire. This wire goes right down there, and then it jumps over this loop, goes down over there, and along this, I have a whole canister of wires that comes over here, and that microphone wire comes right over here and plugs into the soundboard up in this area. And the microphone plugs in socket number one. Number one, right here. And I can turn it up and down. There we go. I have it set so I just slide that sucker all the way up, and it's the perfect volume. I don't have a producer, so I am the sound man. I am the producer. I can make that full screen, so now you see my entire array. I can turn down the light a little bit. There we go. Wow, what's going on here? Oh yeah, there we go. You can see I have my master computer is back here. I usually put this black thing over, cover up the keyboard, because it just adds to the confusion of what's going on here. You can see my keyboard here. Look at that. It's lit up. I have flip board. You can see you probably can't. I can put Flipboard on here. I just touch this button right here. This is an old iPad. I turn the light down a little bit. There you go. You can see it. The camera is so sensitive. I have an old 11-inch iPad up here, and I have a 12.9-inch old iPad there, and I have a newer iPad here, which is not connected to the system because I have this one connected to the system. So this is kind of offline. But so here's how to rein in Russia's evolving disinformation machine. That you can click on that story. So here's a bunch of stories. I'm going to switch and make this. There you go. So you can see exactly what I'm looking at. So I just wave my finger, touch my finger on here. Apple MacBook 14-inch M14-inch. Now they tell me. Oh, this is a MacBook Pro 14-inch. Yeah. So could be a real treat for Halloween. Yeah. I had a 14-inch MacBook Pro. I sold it to Mac Me an Offer. You probably heard that before. It seems like down one more notch. The epidemic is like taking over me. Yeah, there we go. Is that better? Yeah. And we can turn that up a little bit. There we go. So now you can hear me even better. Yeah. And I don't have to get quite so close. I can be a little further away and make a lot of noise. This is really quite a fantastic Ecamm Live. I keep the software updated as often as possible. This MacBook Pro is really MacBook Air. It's a 15.3-inch MacBook Air. I have two of them. I have a main one and I have a backup one. And I sold other equipment in order to finance that, so it doesn't come out of the checkbook. Because we don't have much of a checkbook. It's going to get recharged in this October. 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. So we got 31 days in October, I guess, right? 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. Yeah, so we have 31 days. So October 31st is Halloween. Yeah, I'm a little old for Halloween, so we don't really dress up. We just, and we live in a multifamily, with a security guard downstairs, so you really don't have people walking around through the hallways up here, hopefully. So we, during the early evening, we generally disappear and go out for dinner, or we just keep our door locked and say, thank you, but no thank you. Turn the lights out, above the door so it looks dark. And then we sit in the living room and just watch Lioness. Oh my God. Lioness. Lioness. Like lions, but it's a female lion, so Lioness. And this is a special unit of the Secret Service. It's a fictional, what do you call it? But it's a series. And you need to watch you don't need to, actually. The series, the first season, got to get the vocabulary words right here. The first season is like totally independent from the second season. Taylor Sheridan is the screenwriter and the director. He is a spectacular talent. I mean, to write these scenes, you all have read books before. But when you're writing up when you're writing a book, you have to write all about the setting and what kind of stuff they're wearing and what kind of an atmosphere they're in and what are they going to talk about, and then they start talking. So then you hear, what this character is telling that character, and you have to define the characters. I mean, it gets so. I got a headache just thinking about how you would write such a thing. So Taylor Sheridan, he writes all this stuff, and God Almighty. And he's directing it, so he's telling these people how to do it. And here's you have to memorize your lines, So then you have a screenwriter, and he's got to separate, this whole dialogue and create, the the lines that the actors, have to memorize. You say this, and then that guy says that, and you say this, and that guy says that, and then you pull the trigger and shoot 6 shots. Then he pulls the trigger and shoots 20 shots, and then they shoot back at you. You go. But anyway, this Lioness series, they just released 2 episodes of season 2, and I'll tell you what, when you watch those 2 episodes, your head is spinning. It is so much action, and it's so realistic, and you're on the edge of the couch, and oh my God. And now you can't wait to watch the 3rd episode. And I guess Sunday they release another episode or 2. I don't know if they're releasing 2 at a time. They released 2 this week on Sunday. You could watch it Sunday morning. We watched it Sunday at 3 o'clock, and they're about They're about 55 minutes per episode so far. So, I mean, that's the fastest 110 minutes I've ever seen. Oh my God, all of a sudden it went from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And I mean, holy mackerel. So then we switched over to, what do you call it? YouTube. I think we went to Newsmax because, or Fox News or whatever, because the Trump rally was going on in Madison Square Garden. And I tell you what, that Trump, he is a tough cookie. So, he tells the Secret Service, and they made a reservation in Madison Square Garden, and it was an open day, and the open day was yesterday. And they filled up. They sold out 19,000 seats. They oversold out, by 5,000 or 6,000. Because the whole stadium filled up. I mean, up in the rafters, every seat was, it's like a sold out event, like when the Knickerbockers, whoever plays basketball in there, then they set it up for basketball. But this was set up for Trump, for a rally. And, so not only every seat was sold out, but they put chairs all over where, the basketball arena would be, all over the floor. And I guess they removed the basketball floor. It comes apart, apparently. And, so now you're sitting on the subfloor. I actually don't know what I'm talking about, but I just imagine they remove the floor so the basketball floor doesn't get all housed up. I know they can be disassembled. Anyway, so the whole floor going right out to the edges was filled with seats, except for a 20 by 30 foot area where the presidential podium, so to speak, and that's elevated, so the people that are sitting on the floor can see, the talent. And they had a whole bunch of different speakers, and the sun came out. Eric Trump came out, and then Donald. There's a whole bunch of, so you had like the the warm-up act. Then you had Donald Jr., he came out. And Elon Musk came out. And they all gave, outstanding thing. And then Donald's wife, Donald's Melania Trump came out. She just wrote a book and had it released, like a couple of weeks ago, and it's on the New York Times bestseller list. The cover is a black cover, and it just has Melania on the front. Such a bold, these people are so, tough. They are got thick skins, and and she's so elegant. God, that was quite a. I was really impressed, and Donald got out there. You had, they. I forget the name of the guy that sings. Let's get some pictures out here. Yeah, I took some pictures. So now we want more than today. We want to hit the library and hit the favorites. Yeah, because I selected the favorites. Yeah. So of course we're gonna go to yesterday. I'm looking. Yeah, you can see. I got full screen on here. So yeah. Whoops, that's a little too far. And I suppose you watched the Joe Rogan interview. That was 2 hours and 58 minutes, and I watched every second of it. It was quite compelling. I mean, he asked questions and Trump answered questions, and they had a real good conversation back and forth. It was, good, clean dialogue, and it just, time went by, and it was really quite it was a fast 3 hours. Sometimes you get bored to death. This was not a boring conversation, and you got to a glimpse of Trump having a 3 hour conversation, with Joe Rogan, who is inexperienced. He has a list of questions he asks, and of course, Trump is a very willing participant. So when you give him a conversation to talk about, he'll talk, and he'll talk your ear off. And so it was a very interesting, And then Rogan, asks him another question, and Trump answers another question, and they get into a dialogue with each other. So it's really quite a nice thing to watch, to listen to. And you got a glimpse of, what it's like to sit down with Trump, because it's a full screen, TV interview production. He has help. I deal with my broadcast here, and the three players here. They're all in my little office suite here, and it's me, myself, and I. So right now, I am talking, and me and myself are controlling the control room, and we can jiggle the picture, and all this. Oh boy! So that was the Brogan experience, which is very interesting. And while he's talking, they start talking about the Lincoln bedroom. So that if you're wondering what the Lincoln bedroom looks like, there it is. And the bed is a little bit. It's about 7 inches or 8 inches or a foot, longer because what do you call it? Because Abraham Lincoln, was taller, so he needed a longer bed. So they specially made this bed, which is, for, like a 7 foot tall. He wasn't 7 foot tall. He was 6 foot. 4, 5, 6. I don't know exactly how tall he was, but he was taller. Apparently, people were shorter 200 years ago, and you can see by these chairs. Look how short the legs are. Yeah, Trump made mention of that. So when you sit in some of these chairs in the Lincoln bedroom, your knees are stuck up because the people. If you were 5'5", you were tall. 250 years ago. If you were 6'5", you were really tall. Just when you're talking about tall, Barron Trump, their 20-year-old or 19-year-old son, he's 6'9". Woo! I mean, even today, there are not many people taller than 6'9", unless you go to a professional basketball game. So there, Trump is looking at the Lincoln bedroom, and he's talking about it because, he's a former president, so he was in the White House, and he's, they're, what Rogan is talking about. He said, so Mr. Trump, so what was it like, the first day that you were in the White House, because you move in, one day you're in, because 5 or 10 days before the GSA, the General Services Administration, shows up to where you're living, and you pack up your boxes. What do you want in the kitchen, and what do you want in your bedroom, and if you have any boxes of stuff that you want in your office, and we'll mark. So they mark the boxes, and they pack everything in beautiful 2 foot by 2 foot boxes, and they put your clothing in, boxes that have a rod in it and hangers, and So the GSA, the General Services Administration, they're the ones that come to your house, pack your boxes, and get them all staged and ready, because when you are sworn in, on the 19th of January, whoever's sworn in, but let's assume Trump wins. Please win. He would move back into the White House and wham, the GSA puts the boxes everywhere, and then they have people that unpack the boxes. So when you walk in the White House, you're in. All your stuff is put away, and all of a sudden you're in the White House. Bam, you know. Whereas if you did it, yourself, you would, God, it'd take you a week to move in. Not when you move in as a president. They get you in there in one day, and when it's time for you to go, whoosh, they get you out in one day because the next guy comes in, girl, guy, on the 19th of January, 4 years after you. Oh, jeez. Anyway, so he's talking about he stopped by the Lincoln bedroom and walked in there with Melania, and they just looked at the furniture and the pictures on the wall and all that stuff. So they were talking about that. Here's when they had their 3-hour interview. You can see Trump. He's animated and he's got his hands moving, and Rogan. He's listening and they're looking at each other, and Rogan then asks another question, and it was a fast 3 hours. Of course, I have it recorded as to. You can go right on the internet and look up. Let's see if the picture is captioned. Anyway, no, it's broadcast. 2011 or something. Yeah, you can keyword it and find this broadcast and watch it. Go to YouTube. And you can get this and watch it yourself anytime you feel like watching it. As my show is a live broadcast, and you can see it anytime you want. You just have to. Let's see, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm gonna put myself back on here so you can see that Jimmy is. I'm talking away. Yes, I am. I promise. And anyway, so. There we go. So they're talking about the Lincoln. I'm going kind of like backwards through this little pictorial setting that you could pick up on the broadcast. And I have, I took 30 or 40 pictures of this setting and, picked out a few of them that would, be interesting for you to see in case you didn't do the broadcast yourself. Let's pull that over. You can see the clock over. It's 10:01, 42, 43, 44. That's the exact time if you're tuned in live here. You see, you have comments, questions, or remarks. You can call in to 561. You can see it on the ticker tape up here, 416-1100. No pain, no gain. You don't have to talk. You can text in, and that way I can get a little, if you say, wow, you can text it, brief words, or you can call me. I can answer your call. If the soundboard is all set up for you, the sound from the phone automatically sweeps into my soundboard and gets mixed into this conversation. I can hear you with my earphones. I can hear you. I talk to you in the microphone. It ends up going into the phone. I have the echo. Use echo cancellation so that there wouldn't be any echo, so you don't hear me. Yeah, it's a special feature of the Rodecaster Pro, which is the soundboard I'm using here, which is quite magical. It's relatively easy to set up. You have to read a few things. So I'm a good reader. I started off a little slow, but I had a blood vein open up in my brain, and all of a sudden I became academic, and I became capable of reading, understanding. I only speak one language. I spoke a little tiny bit of German because I had to graduate with some German. Deutsch. I tried a little Spanish, and Parlez-vous français? My mother spoke 5 languages. She tried to. We were actually fluent in French when I grew up. When I was 10, we used to sing French songs just before dinner. Whoever does that, but my mother did. When you have parents that are, my mother was, she went to Jamaica High School in New York City, and she was a valedictorian of the school. There were 2,500 graduating people, and she had the highest academic score of everybody in the 2,500 people that went to school in the 4-year period that my mother went through that high school. So, and then I think she went on to Vassar, and she was, extremely academic. And when you know and can speak 5 languages, as does Melania Trump, I understand. There's a lot going on upstairs. You got all those little cells are really moving around pretty quickly. So I've got some fairly decent genetics. I was not very good, I must say, and I was a late bloomer. I didn't bloom until my second semester in my freshman year of college. Went to Union colleges, and in my second semester, I all of a sudden, bingo! I said, "Holy mackerel! Let's take." So I took some kind of a biology class as a undergraduate freshman student my first semester. Then I went to the professor, and I wanted to take my next biology class. I wanted it in microbiology, and it was a 371 class. If you remember about your college stuff, the 100 series, 101, 110, 120, 150, 170, the 100s to 149s were your first semester sophomore, the freshman. And then the 150s through the 199s were your second semester sophomore classes. English, whatever social sciences, whatever gymnasium, whatever classes you took, basket weaving. But a 371 class is a second semester junior class. Well, I was trying to take that as a second semester a freshman. So I was like jumping up to junior classes, even though I was a freshman. And this happened in my a lot of years ago. So I went to Dr. Whoever. I can remember what he looks like, but Nicholas Poulos was the head guy in my chemistry life. And let's see, Dr. Gordon Gibson, something with a G. Anyway, I had to. So when I was registering, my second semester freshman, you stand online for all the different classes. So I, just stood online in the freshman lines, and James gave her my little packet. She says, James, what classes would you like to take? I'd like to take English literature, 147. So she pulls out a computer card and puts it in my thing. Okay, very fine. What else? So you can take 3, 4, or 5 classes, semester hours. So, 15 hours, somewhere between 12 and 18 hours worth of classes you could take. Like an English or a social sciences class was usually, 3 credit hours, I think. Yeah, 3 credit hours. So if you took a laboratory class, it was 4 credit hours. So if you took 3, social sciences kinds of classes, and a biology class, for example, that would be 3 times 3 is 9, and then you add 4. That's 13 hours. So that would be a fairly standard, first or second semester, class load. But no, I wanted to take the biology 371 class, which was microbiology, as opposed to just biology 2 instead of biology. I took biology 1, and I looked at what was going on in biology 2. I said, nah, I don't want, I want to do microbiology. Well, you'll have to go talk to Dr. Gibson, because you're not allowed to go past class numbers 199 unless the head of the department, of the biology department, says okay. So, oh crap. So I got everything all set up, and this would have been a 4-hour biology class because it had a laboratory session. So it was 4 hours for biology. I had 4 hours for chemistry because I had to take the second semester freshman class in chemistry, and I wanted the biology, which was a laboratory class. It was an advanced class. It was a junior class. So, 3 times 3 is 9 plus 4 for my chemistry class, is 13. And then if I take 4 more hours, I'm up to 17 credit hours. And Dr. Gibson looks at me and he says, well, James, that's going to be 17 credit hours. And I said, yes, it will. And he said, well, you're not supposed to take a 371 class. You haven't had all the other biology classes. And I said, yes, Dr. Gibson, but I looked at the textbook, written by Weber, White, and Manning. I believe that's the textbook you're going to use. He says, James, that's correct. Well, I looked in the table of contents, and there are no prerequisites for everything I see in the contents of this class. All the other classes up to this point really are not prerequisites for this one. This is kind of like an independent, you don't have any, prerequisite requirements that are available. You just take the class. It's a standalone kind of a class. And he says, well, James, I think you're right. So he said, okay, let's do this. I will admit you in the class. So let me have the 371 class, microbiology. Let me initial that card so the registrar will allow you to take the class. And this is the deal. There's 4 tests that we give. You'll have a semester class, and the final exam. You have the mid-semester test, and then you have the final test. There are actually 4 tests, during that semester. You have a test in the middle of the first half, and then you have a test at the second half, and then in the middle of the second half, you take another test, and then you have a final exam. So you got 2 final exams and 2 regular tests. And if you pass the first test, the first of the 4, then it'll allow you to stay in the class. But if you don't pass that first test, which is given about 6 weeks into the semester, then you'll have to leave the class. Is that acceptable? And I said, that's perfectly fine. I will do everything I can to pass that test and let you know that I am academically capable of taking the 371 class. Well, James, I think we have a deal. So I'll see you, next Thursday, or whenever the hell the first class was. Anyway, so I walked in that class, and I got in there a little bit early, so I went right to the back of the class. I sat in the back. I was, like scared to death of this class. It's a 371 class, and I'm only a second semester freshman. and all these older people walk into class. It's amazing, when you're 18 or 19 years old and all of a sudden a 21-year-old walks in that's 2 years older than you. Holy crap. And they all walked in with white jackets on, like biology laboratory people. I'm sitting there, with nice pants and a golf shirt. And all these people had these white smocks, like they just got out of the hospital, and they're doctors. I said, "Oh crap!" So after that first class, I went up to Dr. Gibson, I think his name is, and I said, "Dr. Gibson, do I need that white mask thing? That white?" He says, "You can buy it in the bookstore." Yes. So you fit into the whole setting. You might as well get yourself a white smock like everyone else has. So the classes are given Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So this is the Wednesday class. So maybe by the next class you can have you're put on your white coat like everyone else does. Because when you do your laboratories, you wear something over your clothing, so if you spill anything, you don't get it on your shirt. And that's the purpose. So that way you kind of look like you're a real biology student instead of first semester, second semester, sophomore. But I did notice all the boys and girls that walked in. They're all like 20 years old, and I'm like 18. I'm 5'8", and they're all taller than me. I felt like, holy crap. Anyway, so I better wise up and read. So he says, students, you will read, pages 1 through 45 for the next class, and that's what I'll be talking about. So of course I read 1 through 90, I think, and I read it twice. There was another student at Union that used to go into one of the classroom buildings, at 7 o'clock at night, and just stay in the classroom building until like 11, 7 to 11, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we studied 4 hours. He picked one room. I picked the room next to his room. We wanted, it was pretty intense study. So, he said, "James, or whatever he called me, he said, why don't you take the room next to me? So that way we don't disturb each other, because I like to sit at the teacher's desk up front, and that way if you take the next classroom over, you can sit at the teacher's desk up front there and spread your books out and around, and, you can study, without any noise from anybody else." And they've already cleaned the rooms, because they do that like at 6:30. We get there at 7. The classroom's building is locked at 8, so they'll kind of lock us in. And then, if a security guard comes out, you just tell them we'll be out by 11. And they usually say, okay. I've never had any of those. And you get to know who they are. You say hello and, back and forth. And there's no problem, because we're not in there disturbing anything. We're not destructive. We're just sitting at the desk quietly reading whatever we're doing, reading, writing, whatever the class calls for. Anyway, so I became very academic, I think his name was Bob Waltz. He came from Schenectady, New York, if I remember correctly. So we studied in the classroom building. Monday night through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night we played. We didn't go to the classroom building, but Sunday night we did, because we had classes on Monday. So Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Those 5 nights we were in the classroom building from 7 to, the 4 hours. So that's an extra 20 hours of study time that you got in. And then during the day, you might have the morning off, you might have the afternoon off. then you study in your dorm room, which is or somewhere. I go to the library. You got to get out of the dorm. That's it's almost like all the guys are banging on the walls and stuff. It's noisy. So you usually go to the library and sit in there, and that's distracting because you got all the pretty girls walking by, and you're 18 or 19, and all your juices are flowing. Yeah. So anyway, you try to study in the. That's why the study at night really counts, because it's undisturbed. You're in the classroom building. The building is totally quiet. The buildings are all wood. Your chairs are all wood. The desks are all wood. Sometimes you hear the wood creaking a little bit, but that's about it. You are really quiet. Yeah. What was that? Oh, a little little text message I got from Elon Musk, and probably a request to donate money. Choice for president if voting today for all the states. I'm looking over here at the top. This is a delayed broadcast. Trump is up, 2 points in Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, 0.2 of a point. Michigan is 0.2 of a point. Pennsylvania is 5/10 of a point. Sheesh, very close. And Trump doesn't poll that good, because people when people try to call in, they don't, Trump people don't answer the phone, so they have to go to the next on the list. They have they make 1,000, sometimes 2,000 calls over a 3-day period, and they they try to take samplings from all over the state if it's a state poll, or all over the country if it's a national poll. Anyway, but even besides that, Trump is polling, even with Kamala, which that's a good thing, because Trump doesn't poll well. He or under polls, I guess you call that. So if the poll says 50, he ends up with 52. He's always a couple of points underperforming on the polls. Oh, so he overperforms from what the polls say. So if it's even, he's probably a little ahead. But he keeps charging. He's working every day. He's worked every day for a couple of months. Anyway, so we're talking. Anyway, so I getting back to my microbiology class, my 371 class I took when I was a second semester sophomore, which was I had to get a special signature from the professor, the head of the biology department. So as a second semester freshman, I got to know the head of the biology department, which that doesn't happen very often. And yeah, he let me in. So then we take our first test. It was 12 legal pages long. There we go, 12 legal pages, stapled up on the top, and you get this booklet, and you got 3 hours to take the test, and then you got to get out. And goddamn, 12 pages. So it was a lot of, the first couple pages were, multiple choice, and then the next couple of pages are fill in the blanks. And then the next couple of pages, the last 4 pages were divided up into, half a page here and a half a page there. He'd ask a question, and then you'd answer it. You'd handwrite the answer. And then the next question on the one page, and you write the answer. And there were like 8 of those. And there were 12 and a half points per question for the written questions. And so I did the best I could. I mean, I read all the pages, and how many pages of the text. And of course you had your laboratory work, with your microscopes and all that stuff, and your test slides, and it's microbiology, so you had bacteria and viruses and all kinds of little bugs that move around in water and air. And yeah, it was very interesting class. Weber, White, and Manning were the authors of that. I actually kept that book. It's up in a bookshelf here. Red and black cover. Weber, White, and Manning were the authors of this bio. It's like that thick. Cost you $50. Oh, they really get you. Yeah, those $400 or $500 to register for your classes, and then you got $400 or $500 for your room, and it's $400 or $500 for your food, and general services. Oh my God, it was a couple $1,000. I mean, this is 100 years ago. Not exactly, but it was a long time ago. Yeah. So, yes. Let's see. 1964. This is 2024. Do the math. This is 50 years ago. Holy mackerel. Yeah, 50 years ago to the year. Woo! God damn. I'm still talking. Yes, sir. I remember the classes. I loved the class. It was great. So, anyway, so I took this test. It's the first test. And if I don't pass the test, he's going to throw me out politely. So I bought my white smock, so if they did throw me out, I had a souvenir. And all these students were so, professional looking. It was scary, a little bit scary. Yeah, this is my hot tea. So it's in an insulated, so it's warm tea. So at least it's not cold tea. It's 70.7 degrees in here, and it's 77.9 degrees out on the patio. So partly cloudy out there. 78 degrees outside and 70 degrees inside. The door is open, or else it'd be 67 degrees in here. Yeah, I'm here by myself, so I shut the one door just in case the sun come out. It would come straight across here and burn out the room. So I have a controlled lighting situation there. Yeah, I turn my light down a little bit, so I don't need a lot of light. I got all my displays are my light in here. Yes, sir, Ibala. Yeah. So anyway, so I took the test. So on Wednesday, Friday, he had them all graded. A couple of classes later. So he said, "All right, this is Monday. I have graded all the first half of the semester. There are 4 tests. This is the first of 4, and I have graded all of them. There were like 23 students in the class, including Jimmy. And so he has the stack of papers. Remember, they're 12 pages a piece, and they're all stapled at the top. So he had, 20 students times, 12 pages is 250, it's a stack of papers. So he's got this stack of papers, and he looks at the student, and he looks at the test. He looks at the student, and then he looks at the test, and then he takes the test paper and kind of like folds it in half, illegal pages, and he hands it closed, and then the student takes the test, and then the student opens it up, and to see, so he writes, like A, B, C, D, A, the first A student, and B, B plus B minus C plus C minus D, D plus D minus F. And he circled it and drew a line underneath. So you had a circle, and it's all, in red, of course, red ink for the teacher's ink. And he circles it and puts a line under it. Shit. So he's walking around with these tests, and he looks at the paper, and he looks at the student, he looks at the paper. almost like he's memorizing how this student did. Uh, and then he hands it to the student, folded, squeezed, fold in half. And then the student unfolds, walked along the front row, and then come back and walk across the second row. And he's walking all over in different spots. I'm freaking, what the hell's going on here? Is he handing them out in alphabetical order? He can't be ordering them in reverse alphabetical order because my last name is a W. First name is with a J. So would he be? So that wouldn't make sense, to hand them out alphabetically by the first name. And it wasn't alphabetical by the second name because he's handed out 4 or 5 tests already, and I haven't gotten mine. So it could be alphabetical order, and he just haven't got to the W's yet. So, wait, what? So I'm like tortured with figuring out, what is the, he has to have a scheme here. It can't just be, that arbitrary. So anyway, so he keeps walking around, and he doesn't have many tests left in his hand, and then he comes to me, and he looks at the paper, and he looks at me, and he looks at the paper, and he looks at me, and he does it another time, and he hands it my paper, and I open up my thing, and it's A+. Holy shit. Here I'm trying to, stay in the class, and so then he walks back to the front of the class, and he says, James back in the corner there, he got the highest grade on this test. That's why he got his last, because I turned the papers in the order, the reverse order from low score to the high score. So the person that got the last paper in the stack got the highest grade, and that is James back in the corner. James Wilson, congratulations. You may stay in for the rest of the whole semester because you not only passed the test, you got the highest grade in the entire class. Congratulations, everybody. That's James Wilson. Welcome him to our biology class. I'm so of course, I'm like, oh God, can I hide? Yeah, so I have a grin on my face. So, and when we left the class, a couple of them, they're all bigger than I am and they're older than I am. And a couple of them actually shook my hand. I say, holy shit. This is not like in high school. They don't shake your hands when you get tests back. You run out and play, soccer or something. You run out kickball. Yep, no, shook my hand. They had the white smock on, and some of the little smart girls shook my hand, and see how young I was. Whew, it was like a blood vein opened up in my brain, and I became academic. And it was probably because of Waltz talking to me and essentially inviting me up to go to a classroom next to the classroom he normally went into to study stuff, every night from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Yep. So we were out of there by 11:20. It was on the 3rd floor. We got up it was a 3-story building, so we got on the 3rd floor and studied in the classroom up there. He took one room, I took the one next to him, not across the hall, but next to his classroom. And then when we were done, you could go out and you can go to the bathroom. They had bathrooms, I think, on each floor. If you had to relieve yourself. Anyway, so that was my first test that I took in microbiology. It was a very interesting class, The test was, it was, when you take a test, Mary, you're in college now. It's a little, no one's, you don't have mommy telling you to, read your books. You You got to do it yourself. You got to plan your life out yourself. You don't have mommy or daddy leading you around like a little stupid kid. You're not a stupid kid anymore. You're just almost a grown up, or they treat you like a grown up, even though you might not be one. I try to be one actually, and so I became very academic, and I got A's in all my topics, except the I had to take German. I couldn't get an A in that goddamn German. Oh, that was ugh. I didn't like it. The teacher was nice. He was really academic. And he was actually German. So he's teaching German and he's German. So, he learned German when he was 3 years old. Well, when you're 23, you don't know German. Oh my God. There's Elon Musk at the Madison Square Garden speaking with Trump. He's backing Trump. He's financially backing Trump. He's physically, he's taking time out of being CEO of Tesla and SpaceX to politic. He spent the whole week in Pennsylvania talking to people about, Trump and how important it is with this election that someone like Trump be elected as opposed to the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, however you pronounce her name. And, so at Madison Square Garden, he stands in front of 19,000, faithful. It becomes very, it's amazing. So they're in the heart of the belly of Manhattan last night, having a rally in Madison Square Garden, which was stuffed, absolutely stuffed. I got a message that my package is almost there, almost here. I replaced one of my computers with an upgraded. Remember, I sold a computer to Mac Me an Offer in Tampa. They paid me $1,257, and I invested that back in a more modern. That was a MacBook Pro, so I got another MacBook Air. So they're both Airs. MacBook Pro is a little, like a little grade up, so to speak. So I have a lot of memory in it. It's got an M3 chip or M4 chip, maybe. Don't forget that part. We'll find out when I get it. I can look it up. But, so I got a text message from UPS. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, let's look it up here. Let's see. There's the UPS. Let's touch that one. The iPads are touch screens, which is pretty nice. So it's loading up. You can see loading. Okay. There's the UPS truck. You can see the little truck. And then there's our house. It's actually not a house. It's a multi-story building downtown. So he's on the other side of Federal Highway. So he's west of me, 3 or 4 blocks. So it's out for delivery. That's the official. There it is, out for delivery. It was loaded on the truck at Deerfield. Look at that. I put you can put a nickname on the on this thing because I'm a member of the UPS, whatever. I was a shipper. I am a qualified shipper because I sell camera stuff and ship at UPS. It's the only one that has insurance, that you can put insurance on the package for $4,000 or $5,000. I think FedEx, the limit is like $1,000. Well, when you sell a $5,000 camera, I get $5,000 worth of insurance in case I lose a package. You can't get $5,000 worth of insurance when you ship FedEx, but you can with UPS. Yeah, they charge you $20 or $30 extra for the insurance. They don't lose packages, but in case they do, they'll pay you. To To me, that's an insurance policy to make sure it gets to where it's going. Otherwise, they got to write me a big check. Yeah. Anyway, so I nicknamed this package, as you can see, Slow Poke. It is Slow Poke shipment, you know. And it, you know, I can check. Let's see. So, oh, I can touch it. There you go. And then it loads. See, loading. And then it gives you all. It's out for delivery. You see the progress tracking. Show more. So you can see the nickname is Slowpoke. And it's going to Jimmy. And there's my address. It's package weighs 4.5 pounds. It's yeah. So I can see all the scans. Let's see. Let's show more. You can actually. Oh yeah. I guess this button. You can actually see all the scans. You know, it came directly from China. So you specified what you want. You know, for this computer. You know, it wasn't like in inventory. So they had to, you know, get the production line in China to actually make the MacBook Air specifically for me because you know, it had more memory. I got the top memory, the 24 gigabytes of unified memory. I got 1 terabyte of storage. You can have up to 2. I got 1. So that's anyway. So there you go. Label created. This is a package that's coming tomorrow. Anyway, I touched the wrong button apparently. Arriving today. There it is. The truck is going down Dixie Highway. It's 3 or 4 stops away. It'll be here by, I think Steve says the UPS guy gets here at about 11. Yeah, I'm not shipping anything today. The majority of my shipments, when I'm shipping anything, is returns to Amazon in case they sent something wrong or Marilyn didn't like something. She orders stuff, and if it doesn't fit or whatever, then she sends it back. She said, Jimmy, make sure you return that. It costs $75. I said, I will definitely ship it back. I've got the shipping tape. Yeah. I know how to ship. I got some boxes behind the door here. Whoops. You know, I've always got a couple of boxes. I always have some, you know, material. You know, to stuff around whatever you're shipping back or shipping so that it doesn't rattle around in a box. You gotta securely pack it up so the boxes is full, you know, of surrounding whatever the heck you're returning. If it's clothing, that's a lot easier. Just stuff it in the box. But if it's equipment, you know, so when I sent the computer to Mac me an offer, I packed that, I double boxed that computer. You can be sure. Because when they unbox it and they check it, they gotta make sure, and then they turn it on and make sure it works, and, you know, and they say, okay, we're good to pay him his $1,257. That's the offer we made, and the computer came in perfect condition, as he promised. There's not a scratch on it. I take care of this stuff, you know. So the backup computer is basically designed to, it'll have the same exact software package and everything that's in this machine right here. Go this way. Yeah, this computer. I have another one of these. And it'll have the exact, all these little icons that are in it. It'll be just like that. It'll be a mirror image of this one I'm using right now. So if something happens to this, I got a backup that I can put right in there and get bounced off the air. Because I don't want to disappoint both of my listeners. You know, I had like 2,000 friends, and any one of them can be watching this broadcast. I've got George up there in Wisconsin. He tunes in. Judy tunes in every once in a while. So I got a couple of people in Wisconsin that listen. I got a couple of people over here, a couple of people over there. And all of a sudden, you could have thousands listening to Jimmy talk. It's not 14 million. Rogan has Joe Rogan has 14 million. I've got 14 on a good day. Yeah, but it's anyway. So you learned about my second semester sophomore when I was taking microbiology. So all 4 tests. I got an A plus on the first one. I got an A on the second one. I think I got A's on all 4 tests. There's a couple of pluses and a minuses. I think I got 2 pluses, an A, and 1 A minus, which everything was over 90. 90 to 95 was an A or an A minus, and 95 to 100 was an A or an A plus. I got 100 on the first one. I got 98 on the second one. It was all 99s or 98s for the 3 other tests. So I got an A plus, for the semester, which was 4. That's a factor of 4. So 4 times 4 is a 4-hour class. So I got 16 credit hours. Or it was a 4-hour class, but since I got an A, they multiply the class hours by the A, and then 4 times 4 is 16. So you get 16 points, for that class. And then, do the same kind of math for the rest. You get 4 for an A, 3 for B, 2 for C, 1 for D, and 0 for F. So if you took a 4-hour class and you got an F in it, you got 4 times 0 or 0 for the number of credit hours that you earned. So you don't want to get an F, because then you get no credit. You got to take the whole damn thing over again. So you don't want to. You don't want to get an F. I didn't get any Fs. No. I was a C. I was a solid C student in German. I remember I got a 1B, and the rest was like C's. It was, I just couldn't get that up to. And Doctor, whatever his name, was very nice. He looked at me and he squinted. His eyes, were old. And he squinted with his eyes. When he looked at, he squinted all the time. And, I don't know what was going on there. His eye, he had an eye problem. He was, probably 70-year-old guy from 18. Yeah, I'm like a baby. Yep. So anyway, that's all right. Let's get away from UPS, because a package will show up. They usually, then he knocks a couple of times on the door to let me know that he dropped. I have a standing thing with my UPS leave at the door, and he always knocks the door to let me know there's something waiting for me. And then I'll run out there and I'll open up my new MacBook Air with 24 gigabytes, freshly manufactured in China 5 days ago, Thursday, and this is Monday. So it took almost a week to get here. It took, it's supposed to be delivered. I think I ordered on a Monday. It should have showed up on a Friday, and there was a delay in Alaska in the sorting equipment. And I got a message, your package will be a day late. Well, instead of Friday, it wasn't a day late. It was 3 days later, because they don't deliver on Saturday or Sunday. So, what are you going to do? So here's some of let me just show you a pictorial of some of these. So here's one thing I got. This is how the battleground states look through up October 27. That's yesterday. This is a Real Clear Politics average polling results. Battleground states, looks like you got 7 of them. Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So they're in order of, the biggest margin of difference is on the top. So I think Arizona, it looks like Trump is 1.5 points to his advantage, 49.2 to 47.7. You do the math, it looks like 1.5 points. And it looks like in Georgia, he's got 1 point, he's 2.8, 2.2. Yeah, 2.2. 7, 8, 9, yeah. So he's 2.2% higher in Georgia. He's, a half a point. He's 0.8 of a point higher in North Carolina. It's 47.8 to 48.6. All these are real close. They're a whisker tight. And remember, these are polls. This is not, voting count. This is polling results. And, sometimes they're accurate and sometimes they're not. It's an average of polls, so it's not a single poll. Anyway, so North Carolina, Trump is up, 1.5 or so. In Nevada, he's up 0.7 of a point, 47.1 to 47.8. In Michigan, it's 47.7 for Harris and 47.9 in Michigan. So he's actually up, 0.2 of a point in Michigan, which is supposed to be solid stuff for Kamala. Well, it's not so solid. It looks like it's a tie. It's 0.2 of a point, and Trump is up just a whisker. And in Wisconsin, same thing. It's 48.0 to 48.2. So if this polling results were precise, he would sweep the entire bunch of states that are these toss-up states, all through the Rust Belt, coming right down through, Pennsylvania and Georgia and, North Carolina, going north up into, Michigan and Wisconsin. My God. He would sweep them all. So he would have over 300 electoral votes if that actually was the count. He wants to win them by more. So no cheating. He's worried about. And they just found 25. Somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 invalid registrations, in one of the states. So the cheating has started. We find 1,500 here and 1,000 there and 2,000 here. All of a sudden you don't have a legal. What do you call it? So here's Gowdy talking about these results. Candidates deliver closing remarks in a very tight race. You can see, I expanded just got the graphic there instead of the graphic with the faces. Because she's blue and he's red, as you can see from that one. And this is when he was talking at Madison Square Garden, and she introduced her husband, and the song he plays, he's the singer, and it's a American flag song. It's magnificent. He's singing it, instead of it being a tape recording that they play, he's actually singing it live in the arena. And the voice is, oh my God, it's so loud, and so how an announcer is when they speak in a big, in a 20,000, 19,500. I think that's the maximum capacity of Madison's. I've been at Madison Square Garden, and I know what the announcer sounds like, and it rattles your head. It's so loud. Yeah, it's a lot of speakers in there. Yeah, and they call the plays, and they'll say he's singing the national anthem, and the president and his lovely Melania is listening. It's really, she's the mother of of a 19 or 20-year-old that's going to NYU. The kid grew up in New York City, and he wanted to go to college in New York City, and there are plenty of good ones in New York City, for undergraduate work. And so they're talking. They're how she's a stunning lady. She's like 60. Yeah, she's no spring chicken. She's a chicken, but she's a 60-year-old chicken. And he's 75 or something. 15 years apart, I think, in age. But she's, he's a solid citizen. Got his suit on with his red tie. He's a bright one. He's up and moving around 18 hours a day, and it's always anything he can do to advance. There they are, before she's talking and introducing, her husband, and and there's Elon Musk. He's introducing her. This is kind of like in reverse order of how they came out. But it is so interesting that that Elon Musk, who's been on television for some of his spectacular rocketeering, with this big booster that lands in the calipers, in Corpus Christi, Texas, where they had this, moon, his space headquarters for going to Mars. Maryland has a, Occupy Mars T-shirt that she wears sometimes to some of these bank events. Yeah, oh gosh, I don't know what that is. We don't want that. Anyway, so Elon Musk, who would figure Elon Musk would show up for Trump? And you know why? Because he's a freedom of speech guy. So, and Trump is a freedom of speech guy. So they had some commonality, and where the other candidate is not so freedom of speech. She thinks some speech should be censored. Well, our Constitution, the First Amendment says, "Thou shalt have freedom of speech." And not those words. I don't have my Constitution in my back pocket. I normally carry it. I always carry it when I leave the apartment. But I know exactly where it is. It's on a little shelf in my bathroom. I took it out of my pocket so when I dropped my pants, it wouldn't fall out of my pants. Anyway, Elon Musk is, giving a speech. Whoops. What happened to I'm still live. Yeah, I'm still broadcasting. Now we're in 24 minutes. Yeah. It went off my screen here. Hopefully you still saw it. That's be interesting. I played that back. And now we're in 24 minutes. I'll take a look. My arm must have hit one of these. I have a trackpad that's kind of off. It's over here instead of on the computer. So I got my computer covered up with this little black thing. So there's not too many. That's my focus thing with the camera. I don't want to get my camera confused. All right, because I'm hand moving these pictures. Yep, there's the Joe Rogan with his 25 million. when he did his. I didn't realize he was a Trump. You wouldn't know with the interview that he had a. Matter of fact, I don't think he has a. I don't think he's backed anybody. He hasn't. She won't. She won't accept. Her campaign will not allow her to speak with on the Joe Rogan podcast because he asks too many follow-up questions. And he'll pin her down, and she don't want to be pinned down. Who knows what the hell she's for? She won't say. She talks in, the words, what they call word salad. She talks in circles, and, she won't, someone asks her a question, she really never answers a question. It's amazing how you can run for an office. Of course, she's only been running for it for a couple of months, and she didn't win any primaries. They just, Biden won all the primaries. And he didn't have a good performance with the Trump interview. They call it a debate. They're really not debating each other. The moderators ask a question, and the question gets answered from the participant directly to the moderator. And then they go to the next one. So it's like a side-by-side interview. It's not a debate, but they call it a debate. But it's really not a debate because they really don't talk at each other. They just talk to the moderator. And anyway, so that's what they did, back and forth. No audience. Standing up behind the podiums. There were two of them on podiums. And then they had two people from, I guess, ABC interviewing each candidate. They go back and forth. And, Biden was like, he over-prepared. He wasn't I don't know what his thing is, but he just couldn't speak, continuously. He kind of like drifted in and out. He was too tired. It was like 7 o'clock until 9. It was a 2-hour thing. It was a little late for him. He's normally tucked away and normally sleeping at 7 o'clock. I don't know. But it was 7, it was 8 to 10 or 7 to 9. It was, in the middle of the evening. Where you're normally sitting on a couch watching TV or reading a book or whatever someone does normally just before they go night. Yeah, well, I'm reading or I'm watching, some exciting television program with Marilyn. She bails out around 9 o'clock, and I bail out around 11 o'clock, and I get up at 5. So I'm asleep from. There's the New York Post. Oh, I have that cover. Where's my covers? Yeah. There we go. Look at that cover. Look what it says. This is from the New York Post this morning. Yep, this is the front cover of the New York Post. Madison Square Garden, they're calling it MAGA Square Garden because Trump was there. There's, a picture taken, with doing a little reverse pinch here. There's a guy sitting there with a flag shirt and Trump 2024 cowboy hat. So they took a picture with him, and there's Madison Square Garden full of people, and there's Trump at the microphone, and they called him, it was Madison Square Garden. It says New York City shows Trump love at jam-packed rally. It was jam-packed. Every seat was filled with a Trumper. 20,000 supporters at a rally in Madison Square Garden. Former President Trump stands yesterday where Joe Frazier defeated Muhammad Ali, the fight of the century, before an adoring crowd of some 20,000 supporters at a rally in Madison Square Garden. I was there. Not for this rally, but I went to Madison Square Garden and watched, the Knickerbockers play somebody. And there was I worked for, I don't know, I guess a software company. one of the board of directors inserted me in the company to make sure they knew what they were doing. And one of the board members, Hank Newsom, put me in there because he wanted me to, oh God, change the delivery. It's going to be 12:30 to 2:30. This package is never going to get here. It's 5 days late, and now now instead of 10 until 1 delivery, they changed it to 2:30 to 4:30. Oh God. Anyway, so it'll get here when it gets here. So back to Madison Square Garden. Anyway, so I was there. One of the investment banking companies is a member of the Madison Square Garden. They have like a club where you can have lunch and dinner. At the second level, it's like the second or third level in some office building that's connected to Madison Square Garden, where you can have, uh, lunch or dinner. And I think, or dinner for sure. So this game was an evening game at Madison Square Garden. This is 15 years ago. So um, this fellow that was the CEO of the company, he was basically told that I'm in there. I will help the organization, and wherever you go, he goes with you. Um, just so we have another person that can comment on whatever the heck you guys are doing when you go out of town. So I was like, they just threw me in the middle of this thing, and I had a desk, and I had, so I was like, examining all the things and reading all the minutes to the meetings, trying to get them organized. If they weren't organized, I forget. So I met with, they had 3 or 4 software people that were talented. I actually hired one of them, so in his spare time he had a server for me because I was taking pictures. I was hired by the USA Soccer people to go to Europe for 6 weeks while they toured Europe, with all the soccer things. It was like 192 people, including Jimmy, and I was the photographer. And the guy paid me $9,000 for the 6 weeks, and then I could charge fees if people ordered the pictures, like of the parents of the students. And I got, that was another $14,000 that came in, and I made prints. I had a printer, a good, glossy. It would make prints that looked really good. It was a Kodak printer, cost $5,000. And so I had equipment that cost $10,000, and I earned $24,000. And then when I was all done, I had equipment. Yeah. Anyway, so the digital cameras back then were expensive. 5 or 10 or 20. I paid $25,000 for my first digital camera. But I was like one of the first, not the first, but of all the photographers all over the planet, the only photographers that had the same equipment I did were the photographers that were working the Olympics, because Canon provided the photographers that wanted Canon equipment. They provided the digital cameras, and you just hand over your Olympic photography credentials, and they would hand you a $5,000 camera with a couple of $8,000 lenses, on basically loan while you took pictures all over the Olympics. And then when you were done, you turned them back in, to Canon. If you walked off with them, they'd charge you for them, which of course you didn't do. You were honored to be part of the Canon CPS professional, which I was. I didn't actually borrow any equipment, and I didn't photograph at the Olympics. But I did tour Europe, which that was interesting. The USA Soccer people hired me. I met with the head guy, and he said, "Yeah, come on along." I showed him the computer where I uh, uploaded all the photos. You know, he thought it was really cool that I was digital. Can you imagine? Oh my God, I took like 9,000 pictures. Well, if they were taking film, can you imagine how much film you'd have to bring? You have to have a whole backpack full of boxes of film. But I was all digital. It's 100% digital. And I had a little server in my house. Because remember, I worked with a software company, Hank Houston, put me on the board of the company. And, so I got to know a couple of the software engineers back there. And I said, hey, could you, I have this box, the server box. And I'd like you to make it a SQL Server. Microsoft has SQL Server software. And I have it, on this computer. I just need you to make it so that I can put pictures on and take pictures off the SQL Server. So we need to connect it up to the phone lines, and so I need you to write the software package that displays these images, in galleries, albums, galleries, whatever you want to call them. So I click on, a button, and then these parents can look at the pictures. They can order the pictures, buy the pictures, and then I have to print them up, either personally or send them out to get printed up. So he got the picture. He wrote up the software package. It's like in C plus or C plus plus, something like that. Anyway, so he created the SQL Server, and that server sat in the floor in my kitchen, connected up to. I had a separate dedicated phone line going right into that box. Yeah. So I had a phone line to the fax. I had a separate phone line going to the SQL Server, and then a regular voice line going to hello. When you answer a phone. Yeah, yes, I had four. I think I had four lines coming into the house from AT&T or something. Yeah, that's in the days when you're making a lot of money. Now I don't make a lot of money, and I don't spend a lot of money. But I do have some computer equipment here, and I do. I'm doing this broadcast. I do it every day, Monday through Saturday generally. I actually did Sunday. I did, I did 7 broadcasts last week because, you got all this political stuff going on, and you got to. Oh, that's the time. It's 11:55, and in 3 seconds it's going to be 11:12. There it is, 11:12. The digital clocks, they really keep an eye on you. That's another. That's another iPad over there, MacBook. That's a that's a 11-inch iPad Pro, but it's like 4 years old, 5 years old. Software is update to the to the. I always update the software to the maximum, the closest date to today. Because Apple keeps upgrading their software, and then you download it into your device, to keep your device running with the most advanced, the most secure software. Here's this button right here on this pad. This is 9 to 5 Mac. Apple releases tvOS 18.1 and HomePod software 18.1, and here's what to expect on how these devices will act with this new software. My phones and my iPads are all up into the iOS 18.1. And, eventually they're going to have, 18.5 or something or other. But, this is the beginning of some artificial intelligence built into the operating system. And of course, the computer intelligence that they're speaking of. I wrote apps, 40 years ago that had artificial intelligence, and it would automatically tell me if a shopping center had if the rents when blended and paid, and because the big tenants would pay not so much rent and the other tenants would pay more rent than the big tenants because they were small tenants, and you had to analyze all that income and then the expenses of the shopping center, and then the taxes and insurance, and then you'd see if that was enough debt service to pay the debt, because in order to be underwritten by a permanent lender, you had to have like 125% debt service coverage, which meant that you got 25% more income than actually needed to just pay the debt. They wanted that extra coverage because you needed that extra coverage, because if a tenant stopped paying you, they went out of business. They didn't have a good business plan for their business. Ice cream shop, bagel shop, coffee shop, whatever, shop, hardware store, whatever you had in that shopping center. I financed shopping centers from, basically 100,000 square feet to 500,000 square feet, and did one football arena, Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, the northwest corner of Dade County. It bordered Broward County. It was way out west, right next to the Everglades. There was 400 acres, I think, in this package. 26,000 cars parking, and 76,000 seat stadium. How about that? It was a $200 million deal. When that was one of the first deals I put together for, or had some involvement with, put it that way, with Southeast Bank. I had to sign off on Joe Robbie Stadium loan. It was waiting for my signature. Yepper. Because one of the owners of the Joe Robbie Stadium lived in the Tampa market, so they wanted me to sign off on it. So I reviewed the whole package, and it took me a couple of days to review everything. And looked good. Had good debt service coverage. They had plenty of season tickets sold, and all. It's a business plan. You got to read it and understand it, and you had to agree with it. Just 18.1 now available with Apple Artificial Intelligence. Anyway, so going through, these are some of the covers of the New York Post. So we go down here. Here's New York Post is talking about the prostitution going on in Manhattan. And then someone accused Trump he's relating Trump to Hitler, which is ridiculous. I don't know how they come up with this crap. And a Holocaust survivor is, basically looking at Trump holding his hand, and this Holocaust survivor says, blasts Harris comparing Trump to Hitler. It's the worst lie ever. He's a mensch. And he's got a yarmulke on. And then this little passage in here. Jerry Wartsky, a 94-year-old survivor of Auschwitz concentration camp, said Kamala Harris is wrong to accuse former President Trump of being like Hitler. It's the worst thing I've ever heard, in my 75 years living in the United States, Worski above says, adding that Trump stands for the Jews and Israel, and he does. I mean, you know, the what do you call it? The embassy that was, you know, was moved to Jerusalem. All the presidents for the last 50 years said, "Oh yeah, we'll move," you know, the embassy, the United States embassy, to Jerusalem, which is, you know, the heart, the capital of Israel, and they wanted the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, not in this other city. I forget where it was. And Trump said, absolutely, we'll move it to Jerusalem. Well, you know, the Jews have heard that, you know, for 40 years, and no one has moved it. You know, Bush promised it, Obama promised it, you know, this guy promised it, and now you're promising it. Trump said, no, we're going to move it. And I found a building. I found a site, and I found a building that we can refurbish this building, you know, and do the whole deal with the embassy and the security and all that stuff. We can do it for about $400 million. If I go to the site over here, it's going to cost me $1 billion. So 400 million is better than $1 billion, because we don't have to buy the site. We can just, you know, take control of this building that's already, you know, we refurbish it, you know, and put some security in there and add some capacity to the building, and we're going to move it. Yes, sir. So they moved it. So Trump actually, you know, did what he promised. The other 5 presidents promised it and never delivered. Interesting. Footnote there. Land of the free lunch. Look at all these people. They're all marching to come in the border because they have a sense that Trump is going to close the border, and these people will not get the free lunch. And look at them. They're all marching. It's a caravan. That's what they call them. U.S. spent $150 billion on migrants last year. You know, fooding and housing them. $150 billion last year. Jesus. All these people come in, that's going to be another 150. That's going to be 300 billion. You know, and they're saying, and more are on their way. So, a caravan of migrants moves through southern Mexico this week, and they're on foot. It takes them a month to get up into the United States border, and they're going to try to get in the border before Trump gets elected and shuts the border down. But yes, when was this? This was October 24th. See on the top? Thursday, October 24th. Mostly sunny and 65 degrees in New York City. This is what's going on. This is what the New York Post is. I'm getting all these calls from, you're hearing calls in the background from, they're all looking for campaign money. Or they're pollsters trying to, it could be. When they don't answer, they don't leave a message. They just hang up. I don't do it. Here's Jekyll and Hyde. There's a doctor. He's a plastic surgeon who's 40 years old. This model. There's the model. Cutesy little body model there. She's 25 years old, and she is suing. So Maya Willow Sias, 25 years old, claims in an explosive $10 million lawsuit that her ex-boyfriend, this guy over on the left there, reverse pinching this New York Post front page, her ex-boyfriend, high-end Manhattan plastic surgeon Amar Mashoud, 40 years old, kept her as a sex slave. Okay. She got a black eye, and he whacked her in the eye there with his fist or something. He also beat her until he shattered her eye socket, and then injected fillers around. Then did plastic surgery around that whole eye socket, built it back up. So it wouldn't be all collapsed. After they had a fight, and she, apparently doesn't box well, or whatever kind of fighting they were doing. He was slinging punches at her, and then he built her face back. She looks pretty good there. She looks beaten up there. So she took pictures of herself. Plastic surgeons always take pictures. I've done some digital photography for plastic surgeons in the local area here. Okay, here's manufacturers are campaigning to have these cameras built into cars. So if you get in an accident, these wide-angle front view cameras can show what happened with the accident. Protect yourself in your car with the best dash cams on the market today. That's the cover story for Flashboard. There you go. Vance insists Trump's enemies from within comments weren't directed at political rivals. Okay. These are the 4 dreaded letters that airline boarding passes that travelers, they don't want to get. So this guy's trying to fly from Rome, Italy, to Washington. IAD, Washington National Airport or whatever. So here's the ticket, and there's the ticket code, and when you get the 4 S's, they do all the searching. That I know. Anyway, so there's an article in this part of the flip. They call this Flipboard, Flipboard. It's an outstanding application which you can put on your iPad or your iPhone. I prefer to do Flipboard on the iPads as opposed to the iPhones. Here's a cover story about this. This man builds a special bond with a fox that he rescued from, some water flooding or whatever. And now the fox is being hugged by this man that saved the fox. And the fox comes by, every day, and they have a hug with each other. So the fox remembers the gentleman. If you get a young fox, you can actually, they're night people. These foxes, they're like a cross between a dog and a cat, the way I see it. And except they had their paws look like cat paws, but the rest of their body look like dogs to me. But they have cat eyes. You see the way the eyes slit? So they don't see well during the day because the eye doesn't have a round pupil. It has a slit, which is I would call it a genetic fault, with these breeds of dogs and foxes, because during the daylight, they can't see well. The eye doesn't, focus. The light doesn't focus on a retina very well with a slitted aperture. The aperture needs to be round. So the question is, can you do an operation on those eyes so that the pupil, gets larger and smaller with the light intensity, but remains round during its expansion or contraction of being, a big opening or a small opening. rather than a slit that opens up and becomes round because it jams up against the edge of the eye. But at nighttime, the eye is super good focus. Anyway, here's that big booster that's inserting itself back in this gantry where it took off from. Now this booster piece that you're seeing there, doesn't look big, but it's big. That's 30 feet in diameter. It's 30 feet in diameter, 29 point something feet in diameter, and 230 feet tall. That's 200. The tube that's landing back, in the gantry, and they've got a couple of, arm things that are sticking out at the top, and it catches onto the arms of the gantry, and basically, in a sense, dangles there. It's 550,000 pounds, so it's like a 23-story office building landing on a gantry that's 18 inches in diameter, and you got 33 engines in the bottom of it. Only 6 or 7 of them are firing right now. And that's what's slowing it down. And it slows it down, and it just gently puts it on the gantry. It's right out of science fiction. And Elon Musk basically says, this is science today. It looks like science fiction, but it's really not. Look at that. It was, he gave it a 50% that it would work, and it worked, They caught it, right? It put itself right on that gantry where it needed to be. Again, the calipers are, pretty wide, and then they close up, and they closed up, to the 30 feet in diameter, and it had, these rails on both sides of the caliper, and, the things that stuck out that can hold 500,000 pounds. That's a lot of pounds. 500,000 pounds. Jesus. It's all the external shell is, stainless steel. So they're going to go through with an after-action report on this whole thing. You can see, reverse pinch here, you can see some flame coming out of this vent. So there was something that was, some propellant stuff seemed to be leaking up in that section. Because there was some places where flames were coming out that, I don't know, that could have been, looks like they got some vent places where, they can allow some venting of this propellant system, that's flowing around inside of there, producing enough thrust so that comes, the feet per second comes down to 0 feet per second instead of, because if it didn't slow it down, it would come crashing through that gantry and, damage the whole gantry thing. So, but it came in at a pretty strong angle because of the neighboring project that was being built. And they were hoping there wouldn't be any competition for, these. Anyway, they got to fine tune the radar, the radios, whatever that telemetry is, to steer that puppy, right back on that gantry. That was pretty magical to see that happen. And it didn't crash. It just dropped right into where it was supposed to be dropped. The orientation of the booster was, spot on, as far as being in alignment with the things over here that caught, because there are 2 things that were hanging out on the outside of that 500,000 pound, tanks of fuel and liquid oxygen. There's not much else in there. the rocket ship part, that would house people and instruments and all that, is the part that's separated away. This is the first stage. The second stage, had all the goodies in it. Not that this is just, something to throw it up into the atmosphere. I'm trying to. I'm kind of watching uh, the speed gauges of how much, the booster, brought it up to like 1/3 of the altitude that it needed to get to, and a couple thousand, feet per second, um, towards, a higher orbit, which is, the geosynchronous orbit is like 18,000 miles an hour. That's like that would be perfectly above me. So I would, that shot would be close as possible to coming down straight. Yeah. Anyway, that's pretty interesting stuff. Queen Kamala bursts into tears as King Charles is referencing his mortality amid his cancer treatments. And so she's, all upset, worrying about King Charles passing away. And, so that's my media that I picked out for today's broadcast. And we're at 2 hours and 2 minutes. I think that's probably enough. Here's Taylor Sheridan. He's the guy that wrote Lioness. I mean, you've got an amazing talent in this character. He's not he doesn't play in the movies or that he writes, but the Lioness is like a 20. He's got 10 episodes, 8 or 10 episodes in season 1, and I guess the same 8 or 10 episodes of season 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with season 3, 4, 5. Every year he's got another season that is being broadcast through Paramount Plus. So the Paramount system has Lioness, and I have that because of whatever subscriptions that are built into Xfinity. Paying $300 a month for Xfinity, software stuff, video stuff, and then you add $100 a month in taxes. It's almost a $400 bill, Jesus, for television, just to watch TV, watch the news. Jeez. But I am picking up this Paramount Plus Lioness, so for the $10 a month or whatever I'm paying for that, it is worth it just to be able to see this Lioness programming. And there's another, he writes Yellowstone, so he's worked for 3 or 4 unbelievably popular shows that are extreme. They got to be highly rated because I'm watching The Lioness, and it is so exciting. I mean, the first 2 episodes, it's a couple hours or 2 53-minute shows that were like. It's like, oh my God, it's 2 hours later. I started watching this stuff at 3, and now it's 5. And then, of course, you got the Trump thing at Madison Square Garden, so it was like perfectly timed to get into the Trump business. And he didn't talk until 6 or 7. I forget when he actually spoke. Introducing him took an hour or 2. I think we tuned in at 5:30, and by 7 he was on the stage. So it was an hour and a half of introducing him. And that's the way it goes with these rallies, So you got to give the people, something in return for them standing in line for 10 hours. So my Mac, looking at this Mac 9 to 5, it's showing that Mac OS Sequoia 15.1 is now available with Apple Intelligence. And what that intelligence will do. This is the first time this Apple Intelligence stuff has been built into their MacBooks and their iPads. Because iPad iOS 18.1 is the first release of their operating systems that are employing some kernels of Apple Intelligence, AI. They call it Apple Intelligence instead of Walter Intelligence. Because it's the A is the Apple. They just put their name in it. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm going to end this. It's time to have lunch. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast brought to you every day from downtown Boca Raton. So I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to give you Epidemic Sound, which is our royalty-free software that Epidemic has permitted me to use, because that's royalty-free. So it is, didn't have to pay him anything so that I could have it as my background. So then I'm going to turn up this to full volume, and I'm going to stop talking. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9:15. I started a couple minutes late because I had an internet connection issue. It took me 2 or 3 minutes to resolve, and which just meant I had to restart the computer for some reason or other. It was trying to go here, but it went this way. So when it goes this way, then nothing happens. There's no transmissions. Anyway, this is a Simulcast on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. And we'll be signing off here from downtown Boca Raton in about 25 seconds. And I'll leave you with, that's Taylor Sheridan. I'm supposed to leave you with, going to the top. There we go. I'll come down a little bit. There's Sunday, Monday. Where's, I have to go to recently saved. You got different categories. There we go. There's our Monday. Fantastical. We'll make that full screen. Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. Front and end. On the front and on the end, I have this symbol. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9:15 sharp. Thanks a lot.